they have to have your money available when you knock on the door. So if they have to go get it from those other places, then they have to go get it and give it to you because you are number one in line. You are first.
Before we jump in today's interview, I want to remind you of what the Practical Wealth Show is all about. Our mission is simple: help families and business owners stop losing money unknowingly and unnecessarily and take back control of their financial futures. So today's guest shares some powerful insights, but remember, ideas only work when they're applied to your numbers, your situation, and your goals. That's why at Practical Wealth, we've built the Money for Life Blueprint, a framework to map out cash flow, eliminate wealth transfers, and put you in control of your money. And then we help you be the bank, okay, which we call the private reserve. So if you want to see how this works for you, either go to the link in the show notes for our calendar or take the assessment. Are you ready to be the bank? And then one of our coaches or myself will reach out to you. Enjoy the show. All right. Hey, guys, welcome to another episode of the Practical Wealth Show. So we're going to talk IBC, Infinite Banking, and I have one of the masters. I'm so excited to be talking to Mr. Brent Kesler, who I've followed from afar for a long time. Right? And if y'all listen to the show, we interviewed his daughter, who's out there doing her thing, Hannah, and what did she call it? The millionaire chick. And then so now I got Pops, as she calls you, right? So
Right.
And so Brett, welcome to the Practical Wealth Show, and share a little bit about you got bit by a radioactive spider and now you got superpower. Give me a little bit of your backstory.
Yeah, Curtis, great to be here. Thanks for having me on today. Yeah, just to give you my backstory, in my past life, I was a chiropractor.
Mm-hmm.
I owned chiropractic clinics in the Kansas City area. And again, I'm still a chiropractor. I just no longer practice. As a matter of fact, I haven't been practicing in chiropractic since 2008. I sold my last clinic in 2017. I had associate docs that worked in those clinics. And, both my wife and I became empty nesters. We moved from the Kansas area and we went down to Florida. So now we live about an hour east of Orlando, right next to Daytona Beach.
Okay.
In a town called Port Orange, Florida. However, today I'm coming to you from the Lake of the Ozarks in Missouri. I spend the summers up here between St. Louis and Kansas City. So, so anyway, and again, Curtis, the reason I bring up that whole chiropractic thing is because when I first learned about the infinite banking concept, I was actually at a chiropractic conference in 2006. And I heard somebody that just okay. And at that conference, the thing is that there were a lot of speakers, and there was a speaker that came up on stage, and he started to talk about this thing, becoming your own banker. And I was like, man, that is some really, really good information. That sounds really, really good, but it just seems too good to be true. So I just didn't believe it. And again, I'm sure that you've heard things like that before, where you've heard something, it looks good, it sounds good, but it just seems too good to be true. Well, that was me in 2006. So I went home and I did nothing at all with this concept that I just learned. I did absolutely nothing. I went back to my normal chiropractic life. Then I go back to another chiropractic conference about 2 years later in 2008. And anyway, about 10 or 12 of my colleagues, my chiropractic colleagues that were at the previous conference are now at this conference.
Okay.
Now, the only difference between them and me, Curtis, is they heard this so they heard this information and they acted upon it. They implemented it. So they assumed that I had implemented it also, but I didn't.
Okay.
They were going on and on. They were kind of ranting and raving. They were saying, Brent, isn't this banking concept the most powerful thing ever just to be able to take your debt and just to as far as eliminate, pay off your debt, recapture, recycle your money, build, keep, and create wealth. They were going on and on, basically throwing up all over me about this concept, and I wasn't doing it. So I thought to myself, there has to be something to this, right? There's no way 10 or 12 of my colleagues are lying. Maybe one or two,
Right, right, right.
10 or 12. So I came home and I told my wife, I said, honey, we've got to start implementing this concept in our life. And it was at that time, Curtis, February of 2008, I was $984,711 in debt. That's what I owed to the third-party creditors. Now, I know what your listeners are thinking. They're thinking, well, how do you even know, Brent, how much debt you were in? Well, that was part of the exercise. I had to know what the debt was. And now you're thinking, well, like almost $1 million in debt. How on earth do you get $1 million in debt, especially when you live in Kansas? You know, you can buy a lot of crap in Kansas for $1 million. Now, I know if you live in California, that probably gets you a really small house, but in Kansas, it gets you a lot. Well, on that debt, here's what I had. I had the house that I lived in. I had my student loans from chiropractic school. At the time, I had 2 clinics. I also had, of course, I also had my house at the Lake of the Ozarks. And Curtis, if you have a house in the lake, you have to have a boat and a wave runner, don't you?
Absolutely, yes.
Absolutely. I'm also an airplane pilot. So as an airplane pilot, I had to have my own airplane. Well, it didn't take me that much to become almost $1 million in debt. I was able to apply this concept and I was able to pay that debt off in 39 months, 3 years and 3 months. And all I did, Curtis, was add one simple step to my financial life. And you, sir, know exactly what that step was. I actually had this book right here, Becoming Your Own Banker by R. Nelson Nash, which I'm sure you talk about that quite a bit.
So I literally beat them over the head with the book. When people call me and they say, yeah, I want to be this banking thing, or I saw it on whatever, I say, have you read the book? Or I talked to somebody and he said he could help me. I says, did you read the book? Did he recommend the book? Because if you're in this, like, you won't go 30 seconds without the book coming out your mouth and literally beating you over the head with the book. And if they don't talk it, they don't do it.
Exactly. And I'm telling you, for everybody in the sound of my voice right now, go out and find this book and buy it. Wherever you buy books from, go out and get this book, Becoming Your Own Banker by R. Nelson Nash. Now, Nelson was my mentor in this concept. He passed away about, 6.5 years ago, in March of 2019 at age 87 years old. This man completely changed my financial life. So you need to go get that book. You need to add it to your wealth building library, because that is the Bible of money and finances, in my opinion. I'm telling you, after you read it, you're going to say, wait a minute, man, a lot of this stuff just doesn't make sense, but you got to keep an open mind. So God gave us 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason, because we should be listening twice as much as we're talking. Now, I'm still trying to learn how to do that, Curtis. I haven't figured it out yet, but I'm working on it.
What do you say to this? So here's what I get. Well, I know what I say. I just want to hear what you say. I don't really read that much.
Yeah, well, that's fine. If you don't read that much, go find the audios. He's got 2 hours of audio that goes along with the book, because that was me. I have a lot of ADD. So I didn't want to sit down and read this book, but I got those audios. And when you listen to the audios, if it doesn't make you want to go to the book to look up some of the examples he talks about, then we better check your pulse. You got something going on with you.
Something going on. So let me ask you this. I want to go to the one thing, but I want to backtrack a second. So what point, do you remember the exact moment or crisis that made you say, normal advice, financial advice isn't enough, I need something else or something deeper?
Yeah, well, I mean, again, right? So like, if you think about how we're taught about money, and if you think about how we're taught, it really starts with our parents and our grandparents, and they kind of teach us stuff about money. As a matter of fact, after I found out about this concept, Curtis, I was literally pissed off at my parents and grandparents for not sharing this with me. But it's not that they held it from me. It's just that they didn't know themselves. Nobody taught them. And again, guys, this is a paradigm shift, right? You have to have an open mind And you cannot have what we would call, or what Nelson would call, the arrival syndrome. You have to have an open mind and be able to say, you know what? Maybe I don't know everything there is to know about everything out there. Because let's just face it, Curtis, the thing that we do is we get financial advice from our parents and our grandparents or other people. And what they do, they tell us to do what? Go out and get a good job.
Right.
First of all, go to school, go get a good education. And then
job.
let's get a job and let's work 30 to 40 years. And then all that time while we're working, let's max out our 401ks, our IRAs, our qualified plans, our pension plans, all of that stuff. And then we'll be set. Be set. Well, as you know, and as the majority of your community and listeners know, that's a bunch of crap. That just didn't happen that way. I can share with you every week we have conversations with people that did not work out for them. That pattern did not work out for them. So the thing we do is we go listen to all of the noise, what I call out there. Actually, there's a song out there, and it's by Kenny Chesney, and it's called Noise. And I play that song at a lot of my live speaking events.
I love it.
Because the thing we're doing is we're listening to all this noise that's coming in from our financial coaches, our financial advisors, our CPAs, our accountants, our enrolled agents, our attorneys, our finance attorneys, whatever it is. And they simply just don't know this concept. Because if they did know it, or a lot of people might say, oh, yeah, I've heard about that thing. That doesn't really work very well. You should buy term and invest the difference.
Right.
Well, who do you know that's investing the difference? I don't know anybody that's investing the difference. So it's all on how you act. It's all about just how you act, right? So anyway, just like Nelson says, if you'll know, he says, if you know what to do, then you'll know, or he says, if you know
what's going on, right,
you'll know how to act.
Yeah.
Right. You'll know what to do. Exactly right. So we have to keep an open mind, because this concept, the infinite banking concept, becoming your own banker, look, I mean, it's not a new concept. I didn't create it. R. Nelson Nash didn't create it. I mean, he brought it to light. He brought it to light, but it's been around for over 250 years. I want you to go research the wealthy and what the wealthy do and how they actually built, kept, and created wealth. I want you to research the Rockefellers, the Rothschilds, the Morgans, the Stanleys, the Barclays. I want you to research how Walt Disney built Disneyland, how Ray Kroc funded McDonald's, how Pampered Chef got started before Warren Buffett bought Pampered Chef. Right. These are the tools the wealthy have been using for over 250 years. So it's not on trial. It's not being tested. All we're going to do is implement the tools that the wealthy have been using for all of this.
I mean, you think about Disney. He borrowed $75,000 in 1952. That was a lot of money.
I didn't even know what the exact amount was.
It was like 75,000. It was like 75,000. But that was a lot of money in 1952.
So, but here's what I know about Walt Disney. He had this idea called Mickey Mouse and Donald Duck. And he said, you know what? I got to start this thing. So let me go to the bank to get some money. The bank said, what? Mickey Mouse and Donald Duck? That doesn't sound like a very good idea. Right. So he failed in traditional means of financing. So what he had to do was use his own financing by collaterally borrowing from his whole life insurance policies in a mutual company that pays dividends in order to help with the financing of Walt Disney World, Walt Disneyland. So just think about this. If it wasn't for cash value life insurance and Walt Disney didn't have any, we may not have Disney World right now. It may not even ever exist.
Right. How about that? Think about that, guys. So let me go back to, so now I want to talk about how you got out of debt and mapping out the millionaire mystery. But I've heard you say, I just had to change one thing, add one extra step, right? Explain that, because I try to say something like that and they're not getting it. I'm going to make sure I'm talking about it right. What is that step? And then break it down.
And again, it's not necessarily change, because look, and again, Curtis, it's add, just like you said, add. And to the reason I'm kind of going on to that a little bit as far as not changing, Because the cool thing about this concept is you don't have to change anything what you're doing financially right now. Everything you're doing that's working, continue to do it. In other words, with this concept, you never have to change your cash flow. You never have to work any harder. You never have to lose control of your money, and you never take any additional risk. We're simply adding one step in our financial life. And here's the example. Let's say this is my $20 bill. It could be a $20,000 bill, right?
Right.
So every time that you receive money in, anybody out there that is on and they're hearing me, you guys receive money into you somehow. It's either by active income, passive income, investment income. It can be a check in the mail from grandma on your birthday, right? That money comes to you. And what do you do with that money? You deposit it in somebody's bank, not your bank. You deposit it into the Bank of Texas, the Bank of Arizona, the Bank of Florida, Wells Fargo, US Bank, right? So you're depositing it into your checking account, right? So that's what you're doing with your money. And then when you deposit it in the bank account, what do you do with it? You pay everybody else first. You pay the car people, the house people, the student loans, the taxes, food, travel, entertainment. You pay for Bobby's soccer practice, Susie's piano lessons, and hope there's money left over for you. Well, you got to stop that. You have to pay yourself first. And how do you do that? You decide how much money that you want to pay yourself first. It's up to you how much you want to pay yourself first. I mean, look, I will tell you, us at the Money Multiplier, I have over 17,000 clients in every state of the country, and they decide how much they want to pay themselves first. And when you pay yourself first, you're putting your money inside of your policy first. Not any type of policy. No. This is not the policy that you can go buy from your brother-in-law that sells life insurance. We all have a brother-in-law that sells life insurance. It's not that policy. It's not a term. It's not a variable. It's not a universal. It's not an IUL, an index universal policy. No. This is a specifically designed, specially engineered, whole life insurance policy in a mutual company that pays dividends, that is designed for high immediate cash value. One more time, high immediate cash value. What does that mean? My definition of immediately, anybody that knows me, my definition of immediately is within 30 days. So when you put money into that policy, you immediately, AKA 30 days, you have access to the cash value of that money. Now, how much is that cash value access? It all depends on how you set the policy up. It depends on your needs and goals. And how the policy is designed. But it is designed in a way that Nelson Nash would talk about in this book, Becoming Your Own Banker. Are there other ways? To design this policy other than the way Nelson Nash talked about? Sure there is. And there's pros and cons to designing them in those different ways. So I'm not telling you how to design your policy. As a matter of fact, us at the Money Multiplier, before you ever accept, sign, or pay for a policy, you are going to review that policy contract. You're going to see everything that's in the policy contract. You're also going to see the growth of the policy. You're going to see two columns, what we call the guaranteed growth and the non-guaranteed growth. And the only difference between non-guaranteed and guaranteed is the projected scale that the insurance company will pay in dividends, which that's not guaranteed. It may be better than expected or less than expected, but I can tell you myself, doing this for 17 years now, as a customer in 2008, that dividend scale pretty much performs right on target.
That's what I found. It's like, and all of the mutual companies that I know of that you can do this with, they have missed dividend 100 years, over 100 years.
Absolutely. So as a matter of fact, I work with 6 mutual companies. I own 29 of these policies myself, and I buy at least one policy every 1 to 2 years, right? Because you want to start more banking systems. You want to have more banks. And then the question is, well, why do you have so many, Brent? Why don't you just have one? Well, you can't have just one policy, because if you want to continually to add to your bank, you can't add it to that same policy, because if you look at Nelson Nash's book on page 38, he talks about this thing called a MEC, which stands for Modified Endowment Contract. And if you overstuff your policy, like for example, I'm just going to call this 12 ounces.
Right.
If there's no way I could ever get 15 ounces of liquid in this 12-ounce container. If I do, I overfill it, and it becomes that thing called a MEC. Now, a MEC, it came into effect, I believe it was June of 1988. Our good old government put that in because people, the wealthy, and even people that probably weren't wealthy, but probably mostly wealthy, they were trying to overfill their life insurance policies because there's so many advantages to do this. And of course, anything that works good for the people, the government says, oh, we got to get in there and stop that.
That's right.
We got to change that. We got to get our 2 cents out of that or whatever. Not 2 cents, more like 60 or 70 cents. But anyway, so now they have this thing called a MEC. And now what the MEC says, if you overfill that policy, in other words, if you stuff too much cash in it, it is now no longer, okay, the policy, your policy is no longer treated as an insurance contract. It's treated as an investment, and it's subject to taxation. So we don't want that. So when we design your policy, we structure it to keep it underneath the MEC line. Your policy will not become a MEC because we're designing it so it doesn't become a MEC. And then when you want to add more money into it, instead of adding it into that policy, now, yeah, you can add a little bit into it, but if you want to go from like $1,000 a month to $2,000 a month, you can't do that. That's way too much. Right. So now we start another policy, AKA another branch office of your banking system. How many, okay, the question is, how many branch offices of your own banking system do you want? As many as possible. How many do you think Wells Fargo wants?
Yeah,
as many as possible.
People still, I still have people. I have a person, it's a doctor too. I won't call her out, but she goes, she was doing like, I don't know, 20 grand a year. We borrowed against it to get a house. And she's like, well, when can I stop this payment? I was like, well, where do you think that money came from for the down payment? It's a deposit. You got to see it. Like when you pay a premium, that's showing up as a asset on your balance sheet. And sometimes it's hard to get them to, they still think they're paying for expensive insurance.
Right. And again, see exactly what you said. They're thinking of it as a payment. Whenever they pay insurance premium, they think of it as a payment. Now, I'll agree. If I go out and open up the mailbox and there's a thing in there from Allstate for my car insurance or my fire insurance or even my health insurance, those are payments. And I'm thinking, crap, I don't want to pay this stuff. That's a payment. And yes, your life insurance is a payment. And I remember one time, so Nelson Nash got on to me about this because I was doing a presentation. He heard me speak at a presentation. And I said, hey, the insurance premium that you pay is not a payment, it's a deposit. And afterwards, Nelson, and again, I kind of left it at that. Yeah. And after I was done, he came up and said, Brent, you know how he does in his Southern accent.
Yeah.
You know, and he was very nice, but he was firm about it. He said, now you can't be telling the people that those are deposits. Now, again, Brent, you and I know that a premium payment is really a deposit because it's going into a bank account that you control, but it's really a payment. So now I've changed my tune. And again, this was many years ago, but I changed my tune after Nelson, he kind of slapped me on the wrist, scolded me. And now I say, yes, it's a payment. You are paying a premium to the insurance company, but in between your ears, you have to think of a payment as a deposit. You have to think about it as a deposit. It is a payment, but if it's going into an account that you control, is it treated like a payment or a deposit? Yeah, that's right, a deposit. And tell me what word you like better, payment or deposit? Oh, I like the word deposit better. And have you ever made too many deposits in your bank account? Well, no, I've never made too many deposits. So as long as you think of this as a deposit, and on top of that, I would also go back and tell this doctor lady, I would say, look, let's look at your illustration. Let's look. Can you see here after you get to a certain point of time that every payment that you make, you've actually got more cash available to use than what you actually paid. I have a policy that I started in February of 2008. This past February, so February of 2025,
Right.
okay, that policy I think was 17 years old. For every dollar that I put into that, it gave me like $2.55 to use. So that means if I designed the policy originally to where I could put $100,000 of premium, right? Like if I got the bill in the mail, the notice in the mail,
Right.
and it said premium due $100,000, I pay that 100,000, and within, I say immediately, aka 30 days means
Right.
immediately. If I could now go to the insurance company based on that 100,000 and borrow $255,000, am I going to be mad about that?
You
No.
shouldn't be. Yeah.
Guess how much I'm going to be able to borrow next year? I don't know, but it'll be a higher amount than this year.
It's because I'll show people that and I'll go, all right, but people say, well, when can I stop? And then I'll show them, all right, well, you're putting in 20 and it goes up by 32. In what universe would you stop doing that? Like,
absolutely. I would ask a question like this, Curtis. Are you ever wanting to stop making deposits into your bank account? The answer is no.
I'm feeling that. That's awesome.
So then why would you want to stop making deposits into your own bank account because the thing you're telling me is you never want to stop making deposits into your bank account when it's at Wells Fargo, Chase, or US Bank. And that is a bank that somebody else controls, not you, because who's making all the profits and the dividends off of the money that you leave there? Not you. The shareholders and the stockholders of the conventional bank. You see, inside of your own banking system, there are no profit holders and shareholders. This is a whole life policy in a mutual company. Very important, a mutual company, which means you own the policy contract, not the insurance company.
Right.
Okay, not the insurance company. You own the policy contract, and you have first right to your money whenever you go knocking on the door. When you go knocking on the door and say, Mr. Insurance Company, I want some of my money. I want some of my money that I left here with you. The insurance company has to be able to provide you with that cash value, whatever your cash value is in that policy in a certain amount of time, no matter wherever they have that money. Let's say they have it invested, which that's what insurance companies do. They invest it in other stuff, but they have to have your money available when you knock on the door. So if they have to go get it from those other places, then they have to go get it and give it to you because you are number one in line. You are first.
I love that. So Brent, I'm making sure I can get you out on the lake.
Get you back. It's all right. I'm good. I got a 10-minute grace period.
Okay. All right. So here was the thing I was thinking about. So we talked about adding your first step, paying your bank first. One of the, so I call it, you can use the policies for what I call offense and defense. And so I would view defense as debt recapture. So the first thing in the book and what you talked about is that you within 3.5 years, you recaptured almost $1 million in debt through funding your policy. Because a lot of people want to just attack the debt.
Yeah.
And they don't want to, I always tell people, look, you didn't get into it overnight. You're not going to get out of it overnight. How about you get it back? And, how about you get rid of the debt instead at the end of the day, have all your money? Well, how would that be? Can you describe your thought process around that and how you help?
Yeah, absolutely. And even better than that, if your viewers go to our website, themoneymultiplier.com, I have a 90+ minute presentation that has downloadable attachments and examples. Just go to the website, click Watch Brent Now, and I got a 90+ minute presentation. And on there, I go over 3 major things. I go over more, but 3 major things. And one example is I show you how to recycle and recapture and get all the money back for all the cars you're going to buy, drive, and own. So not only do you have a car, but you get the money back. Now, people think, well, Brent, I don't even know, what does that mean? Recapture, recycle, get the money back for your car. Well, I'm going to explain it quickly. a high level 25,000 foot overview. So let's say this is not a $20 bill, it's a $20,000 bill.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you and me, Curtis, and all of your listeners that can hear us today, they buy a car one of three ways. That's it. Only three possible ways you're going to buy a car: pay cash, bank finance, or lease the car, right? Because all your community are honest. They didn't steal the car, right?
Hey, it's Curtis here. We'll get back to the interview in just a moment. I want to give you something practical. You're hearing about how infinite banking can be, but the truth is, not every strategy fits every person the same way. At Practical Wealth, we use a proven three-part process. First, we control your cash flow. Then we show you how to become your own banker. And finally, we build a wealth system you can't outlive. I guess 4 would be to help you leave a legacy of wealth and the wisdom to go along with that. The wisdom to go along with the wealth. If you want to see how this might work for you, head over to practicalwealth.net, or again, in the show notes, takes our assessment. Are you ready to be the bank?
All right.
Right.
Well, all right. Maybe a couple of them are a little shady,
yes.
but most of them are honest. So what they had to do was they had to take the money, give it to the car dealer. The car dealer gives you the car. They get the money, you get the car. The transaction is over. Everybody walks home happy. But if you just add one simple step to that process, and all you do is you put money into your life insurance policy first that's designed properly for this concept, and now use that money to buy the car. Now, not only do you get the car, but you recycle and recapture and get all the money back. You have the car and the money too. Now, in my presentation, I go over that into great detail, and you can download and print out all the examples. I use a $25,000 car is how much I use. I use a $25,000 car, and I show you how he buys a new car. Every 5 years, he gets the car and he gets the money back. Now, some people might be saying 25,000. Well, that's too much. Okay, we'll take off a zero. You can do it with a $2,500 computer. You can take off another zero and do it with a $250 pair of shoes. Or you can add a zero and do a $250,000 home. Or remember earlier I said I'm an aviator. We can go out here to my hangar in Camdenton, Missouri, and I'll show you how I did this with the $3.1 million airplane that's sitting inside of my hangar. I did the exact same thing with that $3.1 million airplane that I did with that $25,000 car. It works the same way. The concept works the same way. It just works on a different number. So that's why I tell people all the time, because some people say to me, they say, Brent, well, in order to do this, you have to have a lot of money. No, you don't. I will tell you, out of the 17,000 plus clients, the lowest client that we have, he puts about $80 a month into his policy. The largest client we have puts in $540,000 a month into their policy. So you decide how much you want to put into your policy. You just pick a number in between there, between $80 a month and $540,000 a month. It works the same way for both of those individuals. It's just working on another number. And I always tell people, I said, it doesn't matter where you're at in your financial life. I don't care if you make $10 an hour or $10,000 an hour. Everybody needs to break the bonds of financial slavery they don't even realize they're in, and start taking control of their own money and their own wealth. Now, two other things I go through on that presentation. I show you how, so remember earlier, I said I paid off $984,711 of debt in 39 months.
Yep.
I show you another real life example of how somebody paid off $470,000 of debt in 61 months. And anyway, they did this again in 61 months. So 5 years and 1 month. Mm-hmm. And they only injected $25,000 a year of outside money for a total of $160,000 of outside money, paid off almost $470,000 of debt, all while keeping their cash flow the same. They didn't work any harder, didn't take any additional risk, or lose control. I go over into nauseating details. You can print out the examples, follow along on the spreadsheet of how to do that. And then the third thing I show you, which it doesn't make sense to most people, I show you how you can borrow at a higher rate than what you're earning and make money all day long. And I use the example of borrowing at 6% while earning 4%. See, most people, Curtis, think, okay, so anyway, they think if you borrow at 6 and you're earning 4, you lose 2.
Right.
Well, you're not.
Right.
You're not. You have to start learning how money works. And that's what this concept teaches you, is how money works.
I think, I've heard the saying, I'll tell people, most people don't just understand what I call the financial physics, like of that, difference between compounding and amortizing is the last example. And then putting that all together. Nobody teaches about opportunity costs. And, people say, oh, magic compound interest. Well, compound interest works best over time uninterrupted. And so the policy helps you become more efficient. One, and then you could begin to, all right, let's recapture your debt, and then let's apply. I know that you do a lot. I don't have time to go into it, but a lot in the real estate, the private lending space. I love that.
Well, let's talk about that compounding for a minute, because that's a great thing, because that's what people say is compounding, right? And so the thing I get sometimes is people say, well, what kind of rate of return do I get on the policy? What's the rate of return? Well, if you read this book, I can't remember, it's either on page 68 or 69, Becoming Your Own Banker by R. Nelson Nash. He talks about rate of return, because everybody says, I can get a higher rate of return by doing ABC or XYZ. Well, remember, if you go and you watch and understand the car example that I just talked about,
right? If
you get all the money back and the car, what kind of rate of return is that? I don't know what it is, but it's all of it is just my answer. Yep. But here's the cool thing about the policy. It allows you to pay premium. Okay. The thing you do is you pay policy premium, and you pay that premium with after tax dollars. And all the examples I show you with after tax dollars. Now, can you pay it with pre-tax dollars? Well, yes, maybe if you have a specific trust or things like that, but I don't go down that rabbit hole. But I just, because again, I don't want to overpromise and underdeliver. So in my mind and in my teachings, I'm going to say we're going to pay premium with after tax dollars, which that is really a good thing. And why is that a good thing? Well, because let's think about our money. The thing we really want to do, Curtis, is pay tax on our money one time only. And the thing we want to do is get that money into a tax-free environment where it's growing tax-free, uninterrupted, compound interest, and we want the government out of our hair. Oh, by the way, I should have mentioned this earlier. If you're the type just of person that likes big government and likes big government control, then you're not going to like this concept. I would tune out. I would tune off right now and go out and
or me and Brent either, because we both, neither one of us like that.
Right. So here's the thing that we do inside of the policy. Once you get that money in the policy, now it's growing uninterrupted, tax-free. It's uninterrupted, tax-free. The compounding never stops. It's continuing to grow. Actually, there's a calendar out there, and I'm going to give, her name is Rice. Her name is Becky Rice. I'm going to give her credit because she taught me this calendar about how if you take a penny every day and just if you double it, and then just think if you interrupt that effect of a doubling it, like in day 17, what that does to the value. Try that exercise sometime. But again, so it was Becky Rice out of Arkansas that taught me that, and I use it in all my presentations. And by the way, anytime I present around the country on this concept, which is 100 to 120 events a year, live events, Zoom calls, podcasts, I always tell everybody, I didn't invent any of this stuff. I've taken all this material and I've stolen it from other people, and I've just correlated it together, and I put it into a very easy to use third grade level, right? So everything that I teach, I've learned from my mentors and colleagues and so on, and especially this guy right here, R. Nelson Nash. But let's get back to the money. You put the money inside of the bank. It's growing uninterrupted, compound free. How do you know it's growing uninterrupted, compound free? And how do you know you have a guaranteed growth? You have a guaranteed growth inside of your policy. It's not my flapping gums or moving lips that are telling you that. That is in your policy contract. If you do not see and understand your policy contract before you pay for it, do not pay for it. Do not start the policy. Make sure you understand what those numbers mean, right? So now the thing we're going to do is now we're going to go access that cash value. And so like people think, okay, well, I'm taking that cash value out, so I'm going to interrupt the compounding effect. Am I not, Brent? Yep. No, you're not, because you don't borrow your money. No, you don't borrow your money. If I take a policy loan, I do not borrow my money out of the policy. I simply put my policy up for collateral. Wow. I take a loan from the general fund of the insurance company. So all of my money, Curtis, is still in the policy, growing and compounding tax-free, and I'm using the money at the same time. I don't know of another vehicle on this planet that has these features and benefits that allows you to do that with your money, that has these features and benefits. And if you can find something, and I've been asking for about 17 years now, I've been asking, is there something better than this concept that I'm teaching? Because if there is, maybe I'll stop teaching this and I'll go teach that new thing that you show me. Now, I want to add one other step to it, which I think is just over the top, off the chain. Right? All right. So like if you've ever watched that show or just recently called America's Got Talent, there's a judge on there, Mel B. Yeah. And so Mel B always says, that's just off the chain. She just goes crazy about that. I love that terminology that she uses. But here's the thing that you do is all right. So the thing we're doing is adding one step. That one step is putting money in the policy first, then using the cash value while our money is still growing in the uninterrupted tax-free growth rate environment, plus dividends. And even if the insurance company doesn't pay dividends, which they have for over 123 consecutive years in every company that I do business with, but even if they don't, even if they stop today, right? And I guess that's possible, but I guess green Martians could also come down from Mars and take me to Mars tonight as well. So that's possible as well. But even if they stop paying dividends, you have a guaranteed growth value in your policy. So the thing you're using the money for is anything in your life that you have the need for cash or finance for. It could be to buy a boat. It could be to buy a big screen TV, a piano, a chandelier. It could be to buy a house, to do your investments, to do your lending, whatever you're doing. You could buy a tank of gas, your food, a pack of chewing gum. You can use your money in your policy for whatever you want, because the insurance company never asks us why we want to take a policy loan, and they never ask us when we're going to pay it back. They don't care. Right. They don't care. Why don't they care? Because they are guaranteed to never lose. Why are they guaranteed to never lose? Because the death benefit will always be higher than the cash value. Now, the exception would be when you get to age 121. So I'll start talking to you about that when you're about 118, and we'll talk about that then. But until then, just know that the death benefit is always higher than the cash value. So let's say you maxed out all your policy loans. You got it maxed out. You've taken out all the cash possible in your policy, and all of a sudden you die, pass, graduate. Whatever word you like to use. I like to use the word graduate, but you can use die, pass, graduate, or whatever word you want. And remember, it's not an if we die, pass, or graduate. It's when. We all have an expiration date. Right. So that goes on to think, oh my gosh, Brent, that just means that life insurance is the only insurance that will ever be guaranteed to pay out. My car insurance is never guaranteed. My fire insurance, my health insurance, my homeowner's insurance, that's never guaranteed. But life insurance is the only insurance that's guaranteed to pay out. So the death benefit is higher than your cash value or loan available. So at the time of your death, if you have your policy maxed out with loans, what happens? The death benefit will pay off any policy loan balance because they gave you that money while you're living. And the additional money goes to your beneficiaries tax-free. Isn't that great? So now, but here's what's even greater is now what we're essentially doing, Curtis, is now the thing we are doing by borrowing from our life insurance policy, we are essentially using a portion of our death benefit for our financing needs while we live. How cool is that? You are using a portion of your death benefit while you're living instead of you just having insurance with a death benefit and leaving all that money to your ungrateful children. Or am I the only one that has ungrateful children?
Your child's not ungrateful. I know her. Well, I know. How many you have?
I have, yeah. So anyway, I have three. I have two from my second marriage and one from my first. My son is he's age 36. Anyway, he's a property manager, and again, he uses this concept. He's a property manager for high-end properties in Sanibel, Florida. My daughter Hannah, who has the Money Multiplier podcast, which she records a podcast every week. That's who you know. Is age 26, and then her younger brother, 24. He's a pilot for NetJets.
Good for him. Yeah, there you go. See, the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. So that is good. Let me ask you a question. Just in what's your 3 to 5 year vision for the multiplier, mapping method, and how do you think it'll evolve?
Yeah. So, I just want more people to learn about this. Nelson Nash always talked about the 10%, and it is my mission and my vision. And I strive every day. Our team strives every day to get people in front of the information. Now, you guys don't have to believe what I say or what Curtis says about this concept. But here's the thing I would tell you. I say, even if you don't believe me, or let's say you never wanted to work with us at the Money Multiplier, there's plenty of other people to go out there and work with this and do this concept with. But don't take my word for it of everything that I say about this concept. I want you to go online. I want you to Google my name, Brent Kesler with one S. You can Google the Money Multiplier, and I want you to see the hundreds of testimonials, the plan designs, the case studies, the success stories. So don't believe what I'm saying. Believe what the clients are saying and what they are doing and how they're implementing it in our life. And as I said earlier, we have over 17,000 clients in every state of the country. And we're approximately adding about 160 to 180 new clients every single month. So I just want the message to be out there, and I want people to understand how finances and how money really, really works. Just understand the truths about money, because these are the truths about money. And here's what I'd say, Curtis. So like a quote that I heard in 2008 from Warren Buffett. And I'm a very simple, easy guy. I like things simple. I don't like complicated stuff. I don't know when Warren Buffett said this, but I heard it in 2008. And I'm assuming most of you know who Warren Buffett is. Warren Buffett said this, and I think about this quote almost every day in my life. He said, if poor people would just start doing what rich people do, they wouldn't be poor anymore. Right. How much sense does that make? Look, guys and gals, all we're doing is we're using the tools that the wealthy have been using for over 250 years. Curtis, you and me and the wealthy, all of us have access to the same financial tools. Right. The only difference between us and them is they use the tools differently. Now that I know how they use the tools and how they play the game, I've been using those tools the same way they have since 2008. And I've been teaching this concept around the country since March of 2012. So for about 13 and a half years now. And I just want to teach more people. I'm delighted, excited to be on any stage that I possibly can get on, no matter just whether it's me and the host in the audience, or if I'm surrounded by 2,000 people. Not everybody's going to get the message. Not everybody's going to agree, but I know we're going to change the life of some, because I can tell you we have changed the lives of money, their financial lives of many.
Yeah, that's it. I'm excited. I want to share the message, because I think that, I had somebody tell me one time, a changed viewpoint can change your life. Right. And I think that we're in the belief changing business, or the belief, not changing, But you want to give people, because they're, you want to give people, you can't control, what is that parable? You can't control if the plant takes root, but I can sow. So what I want to do is just get out there and sow the good news of IBC, of being in control of your money, of how money works. And I'm so excited to talk about somebody that's even more excitable than me.
Well, I'll tell you, and yeah, just kind of to that, right? Just to put it in today's terms, the thing you could do is turn on Fox News and you're like, oh man, I should be a Republican. Then you turn on CNN, you're like, oh man, I should be a Democrat, right? So they all have their different viewpoints and opinions, which is totally fine.
Right.
But the thing you got to do is kind of read between the lines and kind of pick out what is actual fact and not. And so the thing I like is what Barack Obama once said. And I remember what he said, and he was very, very good at saying this. And it's so true. He says, the thing is, he says, always remember, it's not as always good as what you think it is. And it's not as always bad as what you think it is. So it lays somewhere in the middle. So go out, do your research on a topic that you want to learn about, and try to figure it out, and try to find somebody that you can rely on, a mentor, or a team, or get a group together. I love the group that they have together. There's a game out there by Robert Kiyosaki. It's a purple game. It's called Monopoly. I forget what it's called. Something
cash
like
flow, yeah.
Cash flow quadrant or something. So actually, there are groups around the country that have these little, they have these get-togethers where they all come together and play that game. And why do I think that's so important? Because that game, it really makes you think outside of the box. Because if you're just thinking about it, you're thinking, oh, well, he's a doctor, he's a lawyer, he's an accountant, and, he must make a lot of money. Well, no, in that game, the truck driver is the one that gets rich. The janitor is the one that gets rich, So you got to kind of know, just what's going on. And I challenge you all just to explore this concept. Don't take what I tell you for gospel. Go out and do your own research.
There you go. So I'm going to let that be the final word. Do your homework. Read the book. Matter of fact, if you don't read it, I don't even think you understand it until you read it at least 3 times, and read it out loud. So,
Curtis, anyway, I wrote this book called Mapping Out the Millionaire Mystery. Yeah. I wrote it with Chris Naugle about 5 years ago. I will send this ebook to anybody that wants it. You can send me an email, Brent@themoneymultiplier.com, or just go to our website, themoneymultiplier.com, and find it there. And I'll send you the ebook version of it.
Okay. Thank you for that. And matter of fact, I was rereading it probably for the third time, getting ready for our discussion, and probably 5 new things jumped out at me that I forgot, so you gotta stay in front of this stuff. So, Brent, thank you for joining us. We have to do this one more time.
Yeah, Kurt, let's do a part 2 sometime.
Yeah. Yes. Listen, I thank you. Go out there, enjoy the lake. He's got I was funny, the Ozarks. Every time I think of it, that was my wife's favorite show during COVID. The Ozarks. Yeah. And so I appreciate you. Keep up the faith, keep up the fight, and go out there and keep changing lives. Now I've got something to aspire to. How many did you say? 70? How many clients?
17,000.
17,000. All right. We have some work to do here at Practical Wealth. But so I appreciate you, brother. Thank you so much. And guys,
thanks for having me on.
You're welcome. Go out there and make it a prosperous day. And we'll talk to you soon. Thanks for listening to today's episode. If you got value from what you heard, don't just let it sit in your notes. Take the next step. At Practical Wealth, we specialize in helping families and business owners apply these concepts with clarity, strategy, and certainty. We can help you with a free clarity call or strategy session to help you see exactly where you are, where your money's leaking, and how to plug the holes so you can build wealth on purpose. Until next time, remember, it's not the rate of return, it's how much your money you get to keep and how hard it works for you. See you on the next episode.